What's up? It's another episode of Fistful of Collars. It's the three amigos.
And we're here.
We're back. We're missing one. Still, Chase, globetrotting around the world. However, you got me, Howell Teague, Reed Connell, and Will Safford in the house. Man, where is Chase right now? I'm not even sure. I lost track.
He was in Amsterdam for a little bit.
He was, yeah.
I think he's in Mexico now.
Yeah, he might be en route.
Surfing?
Yeah.
Surfing in Mexico?
Surfing.
Living the dream.
Living the dream. Jiu-jitsu lifestyle right there, isn't it, man? Just back to back.
Jiu-jitsu.
What a guy.
The muskrat.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to him coming back eventually because I'm sure he's got some amazing stories from his trip to Amsterdam because he was there at the Royal Jiu-Jitsu camp with top European guys like Adam Wardzinski, Max Lindblad, Pedro Ramalho, Bradley Hill, and then like international names like Lucas Leitch and Nicholas Maragali, all teaching there in the space of like a 5 or 6 day camp, I believe. So I'm kind of looking forward to hearing about that. And man, have you guys watched any of the videos he's put up, the technique videos and stuff?
Oh yeah, I watched them all for sure. Yeah. There's all the master classes there with Max Lindblad and stuff. Those are badass stuff. Crazy technique that we got.
There's such a variety too of
Yeah.
different types of games. The master classes are awesome because it's just he starts the camera, goes through like 10, 15 minutes, doesn't pause it, and you're just getting the unedited, like all the commentary from the guy, all the
Like
whole
you're actually there in the lesson.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
Well
awesome.
be.
And which techniques, if any, did jumped out from you for that little trip? There was one particularly for me, but go ahead.
Probably
Anything?
the same one. I liked Lucas Leitch's half guard.
Oh, that was awesome. But that's
when
not
the-
what I was thinking about.
From when the guy is standing.
Oh,
So
like,
it's
yeah.
really interesting because usually you get the half guard when the guy's on the knees, but this is when the guy's standing. So how to get to that half guard?
I really like that too because as a half guard guy, I play a lot, and that is like death to the half guard guy, right? When the guy stands up and he backs away, it's like you got to readjust. But he still plays his half guard game against the standing guy. Incredible. That
Yep.
was really good. How about you?
Yeah, I'm trying to play around with open guard and spider guard. So I was watching that Max Lindblad one just last night. So
Nice.
it's a lot of good details in there. He's a good teacher.
Well, I had a little look at Tarek's videos because we were talking about it yesterday. The Tarek Kaplata, right? The Tarek
my
Hopstock
favorite.
from Norway.
Yeah.
And I'd never actually felt the Tarek Kaplata until yesterday. We were just messing around on the mat, so we got here, and I was like, "Oh, okay, now I get it," because I've seen him do it so many
It's a
times.
little different than like a Kimura, the traditional Kimura. It's
Totally, yeah, but doesn't feel that different when you're in it.
Yeah.
And now I understand the mechanics. But looking at it, I was like, man, I just don't get it, you know? But
Did he actually invent the move, or is it he's the one doing it right now? So he kind of took ownership.
I mean, did anybody invent anything in jiu-jitsu, right? That's the big question, isn't
true.
it? You know, but he's the guy who he came up with all the setups and the entries and stuff. So yeah, I think it's cool, man. Anytime you get a move named after you in jiu-jitsu,
it's
that's
awesome.
pretty badass.
I always run with it. When I'm always like ask people what the name is, and they tell me they named it this. Like I don't know. I'm always interested to run with the name the person I just saw hit it like whatever they told me it was.
Yeah.
I'm down.
There's not that many people who do have techniques named after them in this game, right? You know, you think about it, there's very few. There's the Williams guard, right?
Marcelo
Sean Williams, Marcelo Team.
De La Hiva.
Of
De La
course,
Hiva.
he's the most famous. And if you think about it as well, that there's the Ezekiel Choke, right? But the Ezekiel wasn't a jiu-jitsu guy. And this is the thing, that in Brazil, Ezekiel was a judo guy who trained with jiu-jitsu guys. And he would actually sleeve choke them from inside the closed guard. So he'd be on top. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen anybody do this, but it's good when you have those really huge judo gis as well, the massive sleeves. That he would just like inside closed guard, just like go forward, grab around the head, and just choke them from
works.
inside. It does work, man. I've been caught with that. I'll put my hand up. It's fucking
Ezekiel
sucks.
Choke's like my favorite choke. So, but there's somebody hit it in a UFC one time, like early
really?
UFCs. And one of the guys wore a judo gi to the UFC, and everybody was like, "This idiot!" And he mounted him, and Ezekiel choked him.
That might have been Remco Pardo, the Dutch guy, the big Dutch guy.
I can't remember who it was.
Possibly.
I thought it was an Asian guy, but I always remember that too, because like I was like, "What is this dude doing wearing a kimono, a gi to the UFC?" But he was the last one laughing there.
Yeah, right. Well, man, like once again, Will, you dropped a hot fire there
Dropped
on
the
our
bomb.
Instagram account. Dropped the bomb because our Instagram account is firing right now with another little conversation topic of who's the best finisher in the game right now. And who are the 6 names you put up? You wanna run through it real quick?
Yeah, so 6 guys, and the question was, who's the best finisher in the game right now? So
Right now, not of all time,
exactly.
just active.
Right now.
Yeah.
So starting off, we've got Craig Jones. Buchecha, Keenan Cornelius, Nicholas Marigali, Gordon Ryan, and Tommy Langacker.
Boom.
Oof. And that's
Quite
a
a list.
powerful lineup. And a couple of interesting names thrown in there as well. I mean, like, we know about guys like Gordon, Craig Jones, well known for a lot of like quick taps, like, you know, really going out there and sub only and stuff. But guys like Keenan and even Tommy Langacker. Tommy Langacker is kind of a bit of a wild card in there, but anybody who's seen his matches knows that he's
got to have like the highest submission percentage this year. I feel like he's just submitted everybody. I mean, I guess all of those guys have super high submission percentages probably, but
Well, one thing I love about Tommy in particular is that he just goes out there, kill or be killed, you know? And
totally.
if he either finishes the guy in spectacular fashion or he gets finished, right? It's kind of one or the other. He just puts it all on the
old
line.
school mentality, right?
Yeah.
kill or be killed.
Yeah.
He was actually my pick too, not because of Herbert Santos. So he finished Herbert this year at Europeans, which was the place erupted, right? That was just an insane finish. Before that, he finished Hanato Canuto with the armbar, right? But at Worlds, he finished Marcos Tinoco,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Man, he's finishing first year as a black belt, and he's finishing the best guys in the sport.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he's got my pick.
Tinoco was a silver medalist last year.
That's your vote?
That's who I'm
Tommy
going with
Langacker?
Langacker.
Interesting. How about you, Reed? Because there's such a variety of names on that list.
Man, yeah, they're good 6 names there. It's hard to pick exactly one. Man, honestly, right now I'm battling back and forth between Craig Jones and Keenan Cornelius. I think those are my 2. I want to go out on a limb and I'm going to say Craig because like there's just something special I think about Craig, and especially like his last year or so. Like I remember watching him at the EBI where he just submitted everybody, and then he had the great match with Gordon. But like the submission that like will always stick out in my mind is at 80cc. Like it's just something that like is ingrained in my mind. I can never forget that one.
It's jiu-jitsu history right there.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go Craig Jones, man. That's my vote.
Well, I mean, I'm torn as well because those 6 names, it's like, how can you pick one over another?
Can't go wrong, I guess.
You really can't. I mean, their finishing rates are all super high. I feel that some maybe a little higher recently than others, though. I mean, like Buchecha, remember it was the 2016 Worlds. He just ran over everybody, man. He just like crushed
Armbarred
them.
Felipe Pena and Joao Gabriel Rocha
Right?
there, I remember.
I mean, that was just unreal. Like, just the way that he was just dominating and submitting
And that was
everybody.
his first year back, right?
From the injury.
From the injury, you know, so there's some questions. Obviously, I think a lot of people, Buchecha is a badass. So,
And up
but-
until, I think it was up until like Worlds this year, Keenan, we were chatting at Europeans earlier this year, and he had a 100% finishing rate in all his matches at Europeans, right? Which was
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
And tapping out some big guys like Victor Honorio and guys like Ricardo Evangelista, and you know, like we were chatting, and he was saying, "Man, yeah, you know, I keep a track of it. I keep a track of my matches, and my finishing rate is like at the time it was like 80% or higher. So damn, that's pretty good."
Yep.
But you know, I'm gonna say, I mean, it's probably a little easier to maybe focus purely on submission in submission-only tournaments, you know, and Gordon has definitely done a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't necessarily need to focus so much on the points. So, I mean, just as you said there with Craig, you know, he's won so many great matches using submissions, and you know, Gordon did the same. But I can't even pick one. And
you gotta pick one.
I can't pick
This is
one.
why we're here.
I'm gonna sit out this one. But the comments are really cool though, because I mean, there's a lot of love for all of them. But
Yeah, got to give a shout out to Marigali too. He's another young guy who just is able to finish everybody.
Man,
it seems.
ran through Brasileiros, remember?
Brasileiros submitted all of his opponents.
weight and
then
absolute.
the big-
Yeah, up until he lost the match in the absolute,
Right.
but he submitted everybody
in his weight class.
Yeah.
And then at Worlds submitted Felipe Pena, which doesn't really ever happen.
Yeah, man, what a crazy lineup right there. But I'm enjoying these. Little conversations because it's great to hear from the fans as well what they think, right? Well, who the kind of guys that they're interested to, you know, who they think are the best finishers. But I think we're going to have to run the numbers at some point, aren't we? Because, you know, objectively speaking, we got to get in there and actually see like
Who is
match
actually the
by
highest
match
finisher, yeah.
who has it. So.
Yeah.
Because I remember Andre from BJJ Heroes did that last year, and he actually he found some interesting names, maybe a little bit unexpected names on that top 10 as the finishers. So
So we're not going to hear from you, Hal.
No,
You know?
nope, sitting out.
All right, well,
Sitting
let
this
us
one
know
out.
in the comments, since we don't know how, we want to know yours. Let us know in the comments who you guys think is the best there. Bushesha, Keenan, Craig Jones, Tommy Longacher, Nicholas Marigali, somebody else.
Plenty of names as well
Gordon.
who didn't make it to the
Nicky Ryan.
shortlist as well. Yeah, Nicky Ryan, Felipe Pena, tons of really good names on there. So anyway, moving on, man. Speaking of dropping hot fire, Reed put out a video today talking about your favorite ever jiu-jitsu match.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it yet, go to FloGrappling.com. You put it up on the YouTube and stuff as well.
Yeah. Put it up on YouTube.
Go check it out because it's an amazing question, right? First things first is you're gonna instantly kind of go through those memory banks. But why don't you tell us right here? What was it?
Man,
what did you choose?
My favorite match. Thinking back, I was trying to come up with a video. What's my favorite jiu-jitsu match of all time? And it was actually pretty easy, to be honest, man. Because like this match, Felipe Pena versus Herbert Santos at the 2016 European Championship semifinals of the Absolute Division. Crazy, crazy match. I'll recap it a little bit, but Herbert ended up surging in the beginning, kind of had Felipe with a locked out, dead to rights armbar.
I'll never forget that.
A la Jacare and
Roger Gracie.
Gracie, right?
And you were right there.
And
you were right next to it.
Yeah, that was one of the other things, is like I was literally right there, I'm like, as they're warming up, Herbert Santos is looming over me, I'm getting a shot of him and stuff. It was an intense match. Felipe Pena, Herbert Santos, two of the most intense guys in the sport. But watch the whole video for sure. It's not just about the match too, it's about like the experience a little bit, I think too. Because he had to go to the hospital afterwards. It's kind of a funny anecdote where I tried to interview him afterwards, maybe not the best time.
Great timing, yeah.
for an interview, but he was like, yeah, sure, let's do an interview. And I was like, great. And then he was like, all right, what's your questions? And I'm like, how do you feel right now? What's going on? How are things doing for you? He's
Awesome,
like,
man. How are you?
And he's like, well, not great, man. As they're like ushering him into the ambulance. So, but yeah, check it out. I don't know. You were there for that match,
yeah.
right?
I mean, like that is one of the first matches that I always think of as well with the same question. It's right there, and again, possibly because we were there. We were literally mat side, and when it happened, we were just like, oh my God, like it happened so early in the match that like there was this crazy scramble and Herbert dived on the arm and it gets it like way past 180 degrees. All of us were like, oh, he's gonna tap. And then not only did he just yank his arm out of there, but he fought like another 7 minutes with one arm and tapped out Herbert. And that was just one of the most insane comebacks I've ever seen, one of the most insane moments I've ever seen. And it just comes together as an insane match. But, the fallout from that was that, Felipe, man, he was out for like 3 months.
Yeah, he was out for a little while.
He missed pans.
But didn't he go on at that moment to close out with Jaime?
The next
day, yeah.
That was the semi-final of the Absolute Division, I believe.
And Homolo beat Jackson Souza on the other side. And so, yeah, they were hoping, right, to meet in the finals, and then so the next day he didn't end up doing his weight class because he couldn't, and so luckily he just had to strap on his gi and Humlo.
Kind of reminds me of 2018 Pans with Tommy and Dante.
Oh, the arm.
Yeah.
Tommy broke his arm, right? Or he messed it up really bad.
We say broke, but I mean like it's difficult
Something
to
bad
literally
happened in there.
fracture anything like with a straight arm bar because the way that the elbow joint works, it's just gonna pop, dislocate, and just hyperextend. It's not fun. You don't want to have that, but it's weird though because you know what everybody says? Everybody says that your elbow's got 3 pops, right? The first pop hurts, second pop hurts, third pop, after it's gone past the third pop and it keeps going, it doesn't hurt anymore. And that's how these guys keep fighting.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Really?
I don't know what it is. It's like a physiological thing. It's like your body just shuts it down.
If there's one joint like in the body that like you can, it seems like, I don't know, I've never screwed my joints up like that, but it seems like if there's one joint in the human body that like can come back, it seems like the elbow joint is it has a lot of dexterity.
Yeah, but I think
in
you have
there.
to worry about all those tendons in there ripping and stuff. I think that's
absolutely.
like your rehab is not just the bone, healing. It's all those tendons around it that you have to get back to.
I remember, hopefully Tommy doesn't mind me saying, but he said that he never went to the doctor or anything, and it just was...
That's what I hear too. These
was
guys just
fine.
let it heal and they come
They
back.
put a video up of Tommy the day after that happened at Pans, and he was like arm wrestling somebody in like a Denny's or something, a Waffle House. Or something.
Norwegian, man.
So he won the match.
Yeah, but I mean, incredible, right? What those guys will allow their bodies to go through in the heat of the moment. Ugh. But yeah, crazy match indeed.
That was a fun one.
So, look at this. We've got some comments coming in. Favorite matches. People are saying here, Nicholas Marigali versus Leandro Lowe.
Yep, that's definitely right up there, man.
Standout moment.
I like that
Buchecha
one.
versus Adolfo Vieira, 2012.
2012.
Worlds.
That one is great because this was Adolfo had beat Buchecha the year before, right? So this was the first time. At this time, Buchecha was not the absolute king, right? He had not won the absolute yet. And when they start the match, you know how you go for the slap and bump? Buchecha just swats Adolfo's hand out of the way. You knew at that moment it was on. And it's the craziest match. They're back and forth sweeps. They both had each other in knee bars. Adolfo had him in an omoplata, and then just the back and forth on points. And in the very end, Adolfo is down, and he's got to come back within the last minute or so, and gets an armbar on Buchecha. And it's like, man, can Buchecha hold out for the final seconds? And he does.
Yep.
And then he starts his reign.
His legacy. Yeah, no, for sure. That is a great one.
You know what, though? You just talking about that match right there just makes me really, really miss Adolfo.
Man, we had something awesome.
ACC too.
That rivalry between those two for all those years was something super special.
Yeah. I mean, he was always one of my favorites to watch just because he's like, same thing, very much like Buchecha, right? Just go forward. He's definitely not Nutella, right?
No,
just
no
go
Nutella.
forward, smash the guy, submit the guy. That real hardcore vibe, and just thrilling to watch as well. Like what the guy could actually do. He would take world-class guys, and make them look like just nothing, And, it's only a handful of guys in the world who have that ability. So I really miss Adolfo. The last time I think we saw him in a grappling match was ADCC 2015, and he won there.
Yeah.
He beat Felipe Pena in the 99 kilo division. And then he got off and he went off and he had back surgery. And then he made his MMA debut and we haven't seen him grapple since. And I'm sad about that fact, man.
You know where you can see him, though?
For sure.
On the website. We're dropping Adolfo techniques today from the private BJJ camp. So you'll get to see him again, Hal.
And what's he teaching?
He's teaching pressure passing concepts.
Nice.
So he shares all.
And I believe that you got a taster of that.
I got a small taste. I didn't get to roll with Adolfo, but he did use me as the uke, and he gave me a little bit of that shoulder pressure, and he was going 50%, and I was completely
smashed.
Yeah. Guy's incredible.
It's always sad when some of those guys leave jiu-jitsu. So
I'm glad though it doesn't happen
back.
that much anymore. Like a couple of years ago, the jiu-jitsu guys, that's what they used to do, right? They used to win a black belt world title or a couple of black belt world titles, and then it was like, well, now I need to go make some money. I go do MMA, and we saw that happen a lot, right? Jacare, Andre Galvin, right? Damian Maia, Roger, even a lot of those guys, they kind of from let's say around about 10 years ago or so, maybe a little bit more. That was the kind of the progression, right?
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that the professionalism of jiu-jitsu and the way that it's developed means that jiu-jitsu guys don't need to do that anymore.
Well, I asked Buchecha, I asked him at the private BJJ camp, I said, you've accomplished everything, multiple-time ADCC champion, he's got the record for absolute wins. What's next? Are you thinking MMA? He said no.
Well, at one point in time, he was thinking it, right?
He was even training at American Kickboxing Academy, AKA, obviously home of
He
Daniel
thinks
Cormier and those guys.
He still has more to accomplish in jiu-jitsu.
He did, remember at Worlds, right? He did
tease he's going to retire.
He's going to put his black belt on the mat. I don't know, but there may be a little truth to that. He's not too far off from it, maybe.
IBJJF, he doesn't really have anything left to prove. And I kind of feel that the sort of the current state of his division as well, that there's maybe not so many challenges left for him, right? There are no big new ultra heavyweight names coming through that are going to go after him. However, I think the one thing that he does want, and he will come back, is going to be ADCC, right?
ADCC, absolute. Yep.
Yeah, it's the one title he doesn't have. He's an ADCC
losing
champ, and he came close last year.
Two-time ADCC champion, but he got third last year in the absolute division. So that's the only title that he doesn't have there. That's true.
And he he was destroyed by the time that match came around to Felipe Pena in the absolute division, right? He'd had the run in the over 99 division. He had the war with Orlando Sanchez in the final.
And people forget that he did the same thing, right? Just a couple months earlier and at Worlds, where he ran through his division and the absolute division at Worlds, and and then came back a few months later and tried to do the same thing at ADCC again. So.
And I'm sure he wouldn't make any excuses for his performance.
True.
He won't. Absolutely not. I'm kind of just laying some context here, but you know, he was carrying a hand injury, and the hand injury actually was bothering him for like 6 months last year as well. You know, he was carrying it into like his super fight Roger Gracie, the heavyweight Grand Prix in August. You know, he had a bad hand injury, and you know, he did ADCC in September. And he did his division, really tough, and then he went into the absolute. And what people don't realize, the way that ADCC works, is that they have the opening rounds, you know, on the first day, and then they have the semifinals and finals on the second day. But then as soon as the the division finals are over, that's when the absolute will start. So after the Buchecha won against Orlando Sanchez, and of course it starts off with the lightest guys first, right? Goes through the women, and then it goes through the men, lightest to heaviest. So all the other guys had more time to recover and rest. Buchecha maybe had, let's say, half an hour to 45 minutes before the absolute came around and started, and they're like, okay, yeah, you're going to be back out in like 10, 15 minutes. Wow. And he's, you know, and then it was a lot. So.
And then I think he matched up with Mike Perez, like right out of the gate, and that's like, you know, not like Mike Perez is just going to pull guard and let Buchecha smash him.
Well, and he was fresh because he hadn't fought since the day before. So, you know.
And I think... And then maybe fought straight to Shanji, which is like one of the best matches of all time too. And then he fought Felipe Pena. So it was like he had 3 super tough matches, and that was right after, like you said, all that stuff. So
and that's really going to catch up you at a certain point, right? Just the sheer fatigue sets
the Shanji match, man, that's another, talking about greatest matches of all time, that's like top 10. That's a great match.
Loved that one. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And Shanji was the one, that was his first time he'd ever fought Buchecha, right?
Really?
And he was actually kind of... So he said, like, you know, that he was always looking forward to that match because he felt he had the answer. You know, that everybody else obviously, you know, gets beat by Buchecha, but he said he really felt, he believed that he could do it. And he came pretty close.
Yeah, you know.
Fantastic. Yeah, moving on. Favorite jiu-jitsu matches, like, talk about that all day. However, something interesting that came up in the news this week was that Sergio Hernandez, the black belt, out of San Diego. He's a black belt from Barrett Ishida. And Sergio made the headlines for his grappling abilities, but in a slightly different context, because he actually ran after, took down, and then tangled up in a triangle choke, I believe, a burglar. A burglar. I was like, what? What's going on there?
2018,
Yeah, there we go.
Right, and if you've ever seen Sergio's game, he's a fight to win veteran and a black belt, and he's got a really unorthodox game. You know, he does a lot of like that reverse closed guard, and he does a lot of stuff I think he calls like Sergio guard, which is kind of, I'm not even sure, but he's extremely flexible. Yeah. And so he has like a lot of these crazy positions that like I could never get in.
I don't think anybody else could do it. Yeah, it's like so particular to him.
It was kind of interesting how he secured the guy, right? So he put him in a triangle. A lot of times when these videos make their way to the internet, you see guys holding someone down in mount.
Like the Matt Serra video in the restaurant recently, right? Sat on the guy pinning his arms and, hey, you gonna chill out?
Yeah. Exactly. But this one, I mean, the guy is completely just, he's incapacitated. He can't do anything, right?
He's playing nice right there, right? He's kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna move.
Well, yeah,
you
at
know,
that point, it's kind of over. So,
and it's interesting.
The video shows it's over.
Sergio's comment here as well is that, you know, we talk about sport jiu-jitsu, and you mentioned about his funky jiu-jitsu game. He does this weird guard pulling and like almost like bottom side control stuff, and like and then he says, you know, he threw him to the ground using what little judo he knows, and then puts him in a triangle until the cop showed up. And I think that's an example of how a trained athlete, a sport jiu-jitsu practitioner, is going to have an edge in a self-defense situation, you know, over an untrained individual, purely because they actually know how to handle somebody, how to move a resisting opponent, you know? I think all these like self-defense scenarios, we should say, you know, when it's like, oh, if the guy does this, you do this. It's so theoretical, man. It's never based in reality, you know?
Great thing about jiu-jitsu is that it's a game over position, right? When you get the guy in the lock like this, it's done, right? Yeah. Checkmate. If you want to try to punch some guy, you guys, you know, you could potentially get hit. But this is like, all right, you're done. You're stuck. You should note, though, that he's got the triangle from mount. So I wouldn't recommend putting him in a triangle from guard.
He says that the guy outweighed him by about 50 pounds as well. So, you know, Sergio's not a big guy, right? He's like 135 or something like that, maybe 140. And, you know, you're on your back on the concrete, and a 185-pound guy could probably pretty easily lift you up and slam you if he felt like it, right? Drop you in some flower pots or something.
Exactly.
I don't know. But smart
who
move by
knows? In
staying
those
on top.
situations, right? Like anything can happen. Most times, it's probably best just to call the authorities or something like that. But yeah, it made for a sweet Instagram post.
And it literally made, like, you know, national headlines as well. It was amazing. You know, it was run on news networks and stuff.
Obviously,
and,
Sergio's a dude who likes to take things into his own hands and make sure a job gets done right. So,
one other thing about Sergio as well, I'm not sure if people know, but he's a badass tattoo artist as well, right? And you check out his Instagram account, Splurgio, Splurgeo, Splurgio. And man, take a look at some of his artwork because it's super cool. And he's actually done a bunch of jiu-jitsu tattoos. He actually did a bunch of Jeff Glover's tattoos as well. And he's got some really nice ones.
you
He's
want
got
another jiu-jitsu tattoo?
Do I? I don't know. I'm not feeling it now.
You don't have any tattoos?
I want more
No
tattoos,
tattoos.
but no jiu-jitsu tattoos.
Gotcha.
I think if I were to get a tattoo, it would be jiu-jitsu related.
Yeah,
Because that's like the one thing that's really, I think, going to stick with me forever.
Yeah.
Changed my life. I'm obsessed with it. So I identify with the jiu-jitsu.
You gonna get jiu-jitsu saved my life?
Nah, I don't think I would do that. That's a little cliche.
Yeah, but there are some good and bad jiu-jitsu tattoos out there, aren't there? I like Jeff's because Jeff was like a Grim Reaper heel hook into body, you know, and like Sergio's kind of like old-fashioned style. That was kind of funky. But yeah, man, Sergio Hernandez, what a badass.
Yeah, that was a crazy story for sure. I didn't expect to see that one.
I'm not sure when it is, but I'm pretty sure he's on another Fight to Win card coming up. He's on a lot of them.
I think he's
Fight
on
to Win veteran, so.
82. He's definitely on an upcoming event pretty soon.
Yeah.
Well, we'll add that in the show notes so you can check that out. Speaking about self-defense as well, we saw a little bit. We were talking briefly about self-defense earlier because we saw some CrossFit video. I'm not sure it was like a course or a certification, but it was some instructors in a CrossFit gym kind of trying to relate how common movements in CrossFit could be applied in a self-defense situation. Talking about like the body mechanics and the so on. And well, I mean, you can read the comments online. They are, shall we say, they're not that positive, right? And our initial reactions, well, I mean, I was a little bit taken aback by it. I got to say, how about you guys? What did you think when you first saw the video? The CrossFit guys trying to take things from CrossFit and apply it in self-defense.
I felt like they were trying to force something. They were trying to basically get people to buy into CrossFit and say that, you know, it can cross over into self-defense. But I'm not buying in. I'm not buying it.
Yeah, I definitely laughed. When I watched it, I thought it was funny. I wasn't sure exactly what was going on, but yeah, to me it looked like they were making some pretty giant leaps in connecting CrossFit to effective self-defense.
We all know how hard it is to grapple with somebody who's in good shape, right? They just keep coming after you. It can be really frustrating, even if they're a white belt, right? But at the end of the day, technique is king, right? It'll always be king. So you can get in as great a shape as you want, but if you don't have technique or experience, you know, sparring and fighting, I don't think just doing some CrossFit is going to help you much.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, if you're talking about self-defense as well, which these guys, they weren't trying to apply, let's say, CrossFit movements in a grappling scenario or CrossFit movements in a kickboxing scenario. They were trying to talk about self-defense, like real-world self-defense. I mean, real-world self-defense starts way, way, way before that, right? You got all things like about situational awareness, conflict de-escalation, straight up things you got to consider like weapons and stuff, right?
Because a lot of the things they're talking about were like palm strikes and elbows and stuff, and it's like, man, once you make a commitment to strike in a street fight scenario, or I mean, like obviously it's good if it's like the only option you have in between life or death, you know. But like once you make the commitment to strike in a street fight, like you are making a commitment to like anything can happen now in this fight.
Fight to the death.
Yeah.
Literally, you could be. Yeah, I mean that is absolute last resort stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think that there's a whole bunch of other stuff that you should be taking care of way before that. And then when it gets to that point, like the actual mechanics of an elbow strike, you could learn that very, very simply by going to a Muay Thai gym and hitting a punch bag over and over. Not necessarily as the analogy that this guy was teaching, like cleans,
You're right.
you know? Or like how a wall ball would prepare you for a palm strike to somebody's face. I mean, like, that's no more than throwing an elbow at a punch bag and could prepare me to clean a bar, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think though that, like you said, like being a better athlete never hurt anybody. And CrossFit guys, you know, they come into jiu-jitsu all the time. There are some even high-level CrossFitters who are dabbling. There's a guy called Jason Kalipa. He was way back in the day, like 2008, he was CrossFit Games champion.
Yeah.
Now he's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. He's training in the gi. And we know guys ourselves who that's what they do, you know? They, CrossFit crossovers, right? And there's definitely a lot of good that you can get as a jiu-jitsu athlete by doing strength and conditioning and taking principles from CrossFit. And CrossFit guys can have a lot of fun by doing jiu-jitsu as well, right? And man, we know how strong those guys are too, right? You know, we're able to tie them up with technique and stuff, but you get a guy with a good engine and a guy who's strong all around and stuff, and like you said, they're a handful, right?
I just think CrossFit can be too intense sometimes. If you're doing CrossFit more than maybe twice a week and jiu-jitsu on top of that, man, you're setting yourself up for overtraining.
Yeah.
Injury.
I think it's important to note though that CrossFit itself it's like a discipline. CrossFit is not strength and conditioning, right? Like CrossFit is it's like an endeavor.
It's almost like a martial art in itself.
Yeah, it's because what you're doing is you're preparing to perform under a certain set of conditions, whereas strength and conditioning is like a foundational base that will prepare you for your chosen area. So you could even argue that CrossFit guys are doing strength and conditioning to prepare themselves to do CrossFit. Does that make sense?
It's still like the body mechanics of it still I think transfer over from weightlifting to CrossFit. So even though there are like the constraints, right, of doing things under time or whatever, they still, I feel like, do a lot of the body mechanics stuff that is useful.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, like the whole emphasis on CrossFit is like the competitiveness, whether it's with yourself and others, right? So they're pursuing a goal that is very, very specific. But jiu-jitsu guys, you don't necessarily get what you need to become a better, more physical athlete in a jiu-jitsu context by doing CrossFit, because that is preparing you for CrossFit, right?
Right. CrossFit can just be fun. CrossFit can just be like just a thing you do to get in shape. CrossFit can just be fun. So can jiu-jitsu. I don't understand why we always have to like try to like peg it as effective for self-defense. Just it feels like we're always like trying to validate CrossFit or validate these things by saying its effectiveness in self-defense situations, which like we honestly have no idea, really.
100%, man. I totally agree with you with that. Why can't they just be what they are, Yeah, good point. Moving on. Something else that came up this week was came back around, we should say, because this little nugget was dropped a couple of months ago at Kazai Pro 2, was when AJ Agazarm called out Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo's supposed lack of knowledge in the jiu-jitsu world. And, he had some choice words. Reed, what was it he said?
He says that Eddie Bravo and Joe Rogan don't know jack shit, right? Ooh. I believe that's a direct quote from AJ Agazarm.
Direct quote.
Right there.
Man,
So,
those are some strong words.
But he also said, pay attention to who you're taking your, jiu-jitsu advice from or expertise from. And I think he did make a good point. Because Eddie Bravo and Joe Rogan's the reason why I started jiu-jitsu.
Really?
Yeah, so influential, certainly, but a top authority he's MMA, he's probably the best guy for MMA out there, right? But Eddie Bravo definitely has, an agenda. He wants to push the no-gi thing, and he's very invested in the no-gi scene and his event, so...
His system, his association, absolutely.
Right.
Well, I think a lot of it stemmed from that podcast that they had done maybe earlier, where I believe they were talking about who's the best grapplers in the world. And I think the only two names that they said were Gordon Ryan and Craig Jones.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was Craig. Definitely Gordon's name was mentioned. I can't remember who the second name was, but
I think they were talking about that EBI maybe, and so I think that they were talking about Craig and Gordon, but
not taking anything away from either of those guys.
No, certainly not.
But that is a very, very limited kind of view of the bigger picture, right?
Certainly, yeah.
So, I mean, let's just straight up ask now. Here's the question: Is Joe Rogan? Let's forget Eddie Bravo for a second. But is Joe Rogan really an authority on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? What do we think?
Yeah, I guess we have to further define authority. But I mean, he's authority to a certain degree in that he is a Jiu-Jitsu black belt, right? And that he has a big pedestal where he can share his thoughts and stuff, and a lot of people listen to him. Just face value, right? So he certainly has some degree of authority, but in our community, I feel like where we are, or the way we watch jiu-jitsu every single day, the way we study the happenings, I think going out and saying that Gordon Ryan is hands down the best grappler in the world, well, I would have some counterpoints to that immediately, right? And I would say, well, how about Felipe Pena, the guy who has beaten him twice. Gordon Ryan twice. Has anybody ever told Joe Rogan about Buchecha? Has anybody ever told Joe Rogan, about some of the these greats? And I'm not sure that he has the same can wheel off some of that stuff.
I'm not even sure that they're on his radar, right? Yeah. He probably has no idea who they are, because let's be honest, Joe. You don't get a jiu-jitsu black belt by accident. He definitely put in the work to get that. He's a long-time practitioner of grappling, and I'm sure if you were sat next to him on the mat, he would have a ton of stuff to offer you about jiu-jitsu in general.
Absolutely.
From a practitioner's point of view.
Right.
As an analyst, as a commentator, he understands the mechanics of what's going on the ground. Fantastic, he really brought that stuff to life, and he definitely helped explain and educate people who are watching UFC what was going on, right? But the sport of jiu-jitsu is a completely different animal, right? And maybe, I know that he watches, he's definitely watched some stuff on FloGrappling. He's definitely watched, ADCCs, but there's a lot of jiu-jitsu going on, man. Just as much as there are MMA events happening all the time. I couldn't possibly speak with any authority on who's number one in a certain weight division or pound for pound in MMA right now. I just don't follow it that closely, and Joe doesn't follow jiu-jitsu that closely, And then gi versus no gi, submission only versus points. What? Right?
So you're agreeing with AJ Agazarm. Is that what's going on?
Put me in a corner there. Put me in a corner, Reed. No, well, I do
Are
actually.
You saying that Joe Rogan doesn't know jack shit?
No, but I would definitely say that be careful who you listen to, because Joe is such an influential figure, right? His ability to reach so many people, not just from the jiu-jitsu community, but worldwide, whether they are, hunting enthusiasts, whether they're MMA enthusiasts, whatever. He's got such a huge reach, And unfortunately, the message of jiu-jitsu that he does pass on, it's not the complete picture. So I would say, I agree with AJ, I agree with AJ, sorry AJ, but I agree with AJ that, be careful who you listen to. Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly. I think the best term for Joe Rogan is an advocate for jiu-jitsu. He's probably the most influential.
He's a huge advocate
for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, he really is.
I would like to know how many people he's inspired to do jiu-jitsu.
And they used to boo in the UFC, right? When it went to the ground, automatically. And I think it's a big reason of him that they don't really do that as much anymore. I feel like people appreciate the ground game much more.
Definitely. I have a lot of respect for Joe. I mean, that guy, he really is. He's done a lot for us, right? He's helped promote the sport. He's helped promote the art of grappling. But I'd like to introduce him to a few of the high-level jiu-jitsu guys that are out there. I'd like to show him some tape of Buchecha. I'd like to show him some tape of Felipe Pena. I'd like to show him some tape of the best gi guys in the world right now. Have you ever seen a Lucas Lepre match? I'd like to put Joe in front of a TV screen and show him some awesome examples of what's going on, the different rule sets, because he probably is only watching things like EPI and ADCC, and maybe not getting the full picture. So.
But after AJ made that statement, didn't he go on to say that he was the greatest grappler in the world?
You know what? I think he might have. Yeah. He said he says I give this guy respect because he stepped in with the greatest
grappler in the world. So you do need to be careful who you take.
Good point. And he also mentioned that his walkout song was in reference to that as well. And
What was the walkout song?
it was Cult of Personality.
Oh,
I don't know who
good
that's by.
choice. Living Color.
Living Color, okay.
Yeah.
And it was, which is like CM Punk's longtime walkout song too. So
There you go.
do with that information what you will. That's why I'm here.
All right, guys. So it's kind of coming to that time again. Jump back in on one of our regular weekly segments, and this week we're going to do sweep submit, okay, on sports other than jiu-jitsu. All right. So
Other than
sweep or
jiu-jitsu.
submit. Just to remind you, are there other sports? Yeah. I don't know. Jiu-jitsu is life. But just to explain, sweep or submit. We like something, boom, submit. You don't like something, sweep it out of here. Get out. So, first things first, sweep or submit sports that aren't jiu-jitsu. Golf.
Golf, I will half guard sweep that out of there. Don't need it. Don't need it in my life.
I like golf.
All right?
Submit because I like playing golf.
Do you?
Yeah. I've been playing for a long time.
Never played golf.
It's great, man. You're outside. It's a beautiful golf course. You know, you're outside for like 5 hours. But watching golf, definitely sweep that right out of here.
I'm not even sure golf is a sport. Is it a game? It's
It
a
is.
pastime. It's a hobby. I don't even. You can't even lay. It's not even. Doesn't even deserve the label of a
professional
sport.
athletes.
I sweep that out of here. So. Baseball. Sweep or submit.
Sweep. Man, I used to love baseball. It's just so boring now. I can't even watch a full game anymore.
They
You
play
don't,
too many
you don't have an
games.
entire day to just sit there and just, eat some hot dogs and watch?
No, not at all.
Sweep. I don't need it either.
No?
I don't need it either.
You used to play?
No, I never played. I do have a good story actually. When I was like 7 years old, and my parents used to tell me they brought me to Little League, and I hated it. So maybe it stems from that. But
I guess so.
I like when there's a brawl. When there's a brawl on the field, that's pretty cool. But other than that,
I'm British, so we don't have baseball. I could say
you know.
cricket, but I don't like that either. So sweep.
sweep cricket tip.
Yeah. Soccer. Had a FIFA World Cup. Also, we call it football. The rest of the world calls it football, by the way. But
we're in
soccer,
America,
because
so-
we're in America right now. So, obviously the World Cup just ended. France won on Sunday there. Amazing couple of weeks of tournament. Wow, an amazing game. Super submit.
I'll take it. I'll submit. That was fun. I mean, I don't watch it. I don't really watch soccer regularly.
Every 4 years.
But I mean, yeah, the World Cup's certainly fun. Yeah, I'm into it. I'll take it.
World Cup soccer, submit. The other 4 years, 3 years in between that, sweet.
Major League Soccer? I don't know.
I don't watch soccer other than the World Cup, I'll be honest. Like I watch it every 4 years, and I don't really watch any because I hate all the diving and the theatrics and it's just, man, it's like, come on. Like, what is that other thing they say that, like MMA and judo guys, any kind of combat sports, they pretend that they're not hurt, but footballers, they pretend that they do.
Yeah.
It's like, come on.
Yeah,
like,
that
you can
ruins it.
blame, like a guy touches his ear and he's like, ah!
And then meanwhile, somebody else got like a 5-inch gash on their face, and they're telling the doctor, "I'm fine, I'm fine."
Let me back in.
Yeah. I'm kind of 50-50 as well. Sweep, man. I'm not sure. All right. The other kind of football,
American football.
the American football. Yeah. NFL,
Submit.
etc.
Football is king, man. Football is awesome.
Sorry.
I think it's one of the greatest strategic games out there. Right? It's literally a war. You're having a war with another team, and you're trying to get to their HQ, their home base. I would like the plays to be longer. There's nothing you can do about that. There's a lot of stopping and starting, but love football.
Yeah, I agree.
Really?
Yeah.
You a fan?
I'm a fan. Yeah, I'll take it. I grew up watching football from New England, so I've only seen good things from when I started watching. So I like football. I'm into it.
I don't get it. I don't get it, man. American
It is
football.
advanced.
I
It
don't
takes-
get. No, I mean, it's simpler because all they do, they just run for like 3 seconds and up, stop. Let's just take a 20-minute break, drink some water, have a chat, and then we'll do it again. And then like they run for another 3 seconds, and it seems to go on for 20 million hours, and then everybody goes home, and I don't know who's won. I don't know. It's like.
So
you want a real.
You need to invest in the strategy and the rules and understand the real.
You want to watch a real game with gigantic men chasing an egg-shaped ball? Watch rugby. That's the real shit right
do
there.
like rugby.
Rugby is
Submit
freaking
rugby.
awesome. Yeah,
But that's hard to follow as well. I feel like that when I watch a rugby game, I'm like, what is going on?
Well, I would say it's because you don't know the strategy.
True.
MMA. Are we MMA fans around the table? Sweeper Smith?
Submit.
Yeah.
MMA is the best, man.
Really?
MMA is so exciting. Yeah, totally. I mean, and it again, if you look at it more so as a sport where guys are going out there and they're using strategy and tactics to best another man, it becomes really exciting. You know, when you looked at it from a different perspective, not just two guys going out there to brawl and throw down. I love MMA.
Oh, it's the ultimate sport. It's the ultimate athletic test, in my opinion. I think it's the mental side, the chess game of things. You know, we like to talk about jiu-jitsu being a chess game. You know, so there's certainly an element of that in there, but it's also hyper violent. You know, which is great. No,
the more violent, the better.
One versus one. It doesn't get more primal than that. They've been doing UFCs for hundreds of thousands of years. You know, like it's just people watch when two people fight. So I'm game for it. Submit.
I mean, I can't sweep it out because MMA is the reason I got into jiu-jitsu. You know, I was an MMA fan first, and that's how I started grappling. So I have to give it to that. I also worked in MMA for many years as well, and it started my career, and that's how I kind of ended up, you know, here by a few diversions. I don't watch it anymore though, because to be honest, I just like to watch jiu-jitsu, and I like to watch the grappling in MMA, and I think it's great when we see some, but we don't see as much as maybe, you know, we used to. There aren't so many pure jiu-jitsu guys.
Sure.
There's a lot more else happening, you know.
Yeah.
But I have to admit it because, yeah, you know, without it, I don't think we would even be here. Without MMA, jiu-jitsu wouldn't be as popular as it is, right?
Absolutely.
So
100.
Definitely. Yeah.
even though I'm not the biggest fan anymore. But let's just run through a couple more very, very quick. Curling.
What is that again?
Reed could tell you. He went to the Olympics and
in
watched
South
it.
Korea. I got a new appreciation for curling. I went to the South Korea and the Winter Olympics and I saw them. No, I'm just kidding. Sweep it out of here. Get out of here.
They sweep it out.
I have no
they
patience.
sweep it out. That's what they do, right? They sweep the ball. The giant granite stone. They sweep the ice.
Sweep.
Dude, I think it's epic. I love curling.
Get out of here.
It's hypnotic. I don't know how they do what they do, but you just sit there and you're like, wow, he just threw another one, and you're like, right there. He's gonna throw it again. There he goes.
This is sarcastic.
Maybe I'll have to record some maybe on the DVR.
And last one, hockey.
Submit. One of my favorite sports to watch.
Yeah.
It's nonstop. You know, the puck is going all over the place. The guys are fighting. There's very few stops in the action. I think it's actually the best live event to watch.
Ah.
A little bit tougher to watch on TV, but when you're there, the energy in the crowd, everything is just super exciting.
Yeah.
Hockey.
I like to watch the playoffs. I don't watch a lot. They suffer the same thing. I feel like with baseball, they play so many games. It's just like so hard to keep track for me anyway. But I'll take it. I submit hockey too. I like watching the playoffs, and Bruins are good, so works out.
Yeah, man, I gotta say, I don't know shit about ice hockey, like who's who, like which teams are doing what, but like you say, just as a spectacle, just to watch it, I think it's great, man. Those guys just flying up and down the ice, smashing each other into the barriers, and just that puck traveling like 100 miles an hour is epic. And, you know, there's that old joke, isn't it, that somebody went to a fight and a hockey game broke out.
Yep,
You know,
exactly.
it's just epically violent as
It's
well.
too bad
so.
they don't let them do. They don't let them grapple. Once the fight goes to the ground, they got to pick it up.
Yeah.
Stay
Cool,
la
man.
Hiva with skates on, I guess.
Oh, that would be dangerous. Take out an artery or something.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for another episode of A Fistful of Collars. A lot of fun. Let us know in the comments as well. You can catch the replay on YouTube and just email us. Like, let us know. Hit us up on Instagram, on Facebook, whatever it might be. Do you agree? Do you think that Joe Rogan is an authority on jiu-jitsu? Do you think that self-defense and CrossFit are actually better bedfellows than we were saying? What is your favorite jiu-jitsu match? Plenty more to come next week as well, right?
That's right.
Awesome.
Let us know,
Oh, no,
guys.
we won't. Holy crap. I just remembered.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we may not have an episode. You may have to do it by yourself, Reed, because Chase is out. Chase is out, and we're in Japan.
That's right.
So
Stay tuned for
Tokyo
my
Grand
one-man
Slam.
show next week.
all right, guys. See you soon.